Hey everyone, Taz from Critical Thinking Anarchist here, and I watched the first two episodes of X-Men 97. I accidentally watched them in the wrong order. Didn't realize it at first because the website that I used apparently doesn't have one on there correctly. So I didn't realize I missed the first one. I'm like, it never seems kind of a little weird, but it started off all right. So I thought, it started off with Magneto, and this is going to be spoilers here, but you already kind of know this. It was in the trailer with Magneto taking over the X-Men. I just thought that's where it started, not realizing that there was a whole other episode right before that one. So anyway, my thoughts on this. So I'll kind of go through some observations first, and then towards the end, I will let you know where I think it rates and everything. So first off, this is very much in the style of X-Men, the animated series, while not being directly X-Men, the animated series. Everything is just a little bit off. The animation, the voices, the characters, all just not quite the same. That doesn't mean better. That doesn't mean worse. It just means it's not quite the same. And I want to stress this. This is only 2 episodes. So, you see all this hoopla and all this, praise and everything else going on out there. Like, oh my God, it's the greatest thing ever. It's 2 episodes. You can't base anything on the 2 episodes, especially the first 2 episodes. The first 2 episodes are meant to hook you in, to keep you watching again and again and again. If the first 2 episodes fail, it doesn't matter how good the rest of the show is. You're never going to watch the rest of it. So the first 2 episodes are probably going to be the best 2 of the season. At the very least, they're going to be very good enough to get you hooked in. So we'll see how the rest of the show goes. But anyway, again, for me, not great, not amazing, not the bestest show ever, but good. They're solidly written, they're well acted, and for the most part, fairly solid. So credit where it's due. The animation style is definitely different. It's in the style of X-Men 92, but not the same as the original. Part of this is due to how the show being, now it's done on computers, where the original was very much hand-drawn. So what this means is that while the background images are very much more animated and more detailed, foreground images are much less detailed. So the animation is very crisp, it's very clean, but it also loses some of the grit that went into the original show. For the most part, the animation itself is really good, and I have no problems with it. Character design is another matter, but I'll address that later. Voice acting is the next part. This is a bit more hit and miss. So they try to get the original actors where possible. Cal Dodd comes back as Wolverine, Lenore Zahn comes back as Rogue, Allison Seeley-Smith is Storm, and George Buza is Beast. The rest of the cast are new actors. Easily the best one, Allison Seeley-Smith, is incredible as Storm. I have always loved her voice. She has such a vocal presence. And she's amazing. She always is. And I love the fact that she's Storm again and sounds exactly the same. Like she hasn't missed a beat 30 years later, and she still sounds as amazing as ever. Cal Dodd is just a bit off. So Wolverine, not terrible, but you can tell he's not the same guy as he was in the 90s. You can tell it's just not quite the same. It's oddly enough a little less gruff, which is kind of hard to believe. A guy 30 years older and he's less gruff now than he was back then. George's Beast is mostly the same. Again, a little hit and miss, but for the most part, he's still right there. The toughest one is Lenore's Rogue. You can tell it's the same voice. At first it's kind of a little tough. But she sounds 30 years older while the character is 10 years younger. And so I'm going to kind of give you a little bit here. So this is how Rogue looked originally. You kind of tell. She looks like she's, if I had to guess, late 20s, right around 30-ish, and then the new one, let's see if I can Let's see if I can zoom this in a bit. Whoa. All right, there. That works. She looks like she's a teenager. She looks like she's barely 20. So her voice sounds 30 years older. She does. She sounds older. And the character model is like 10 years younger. So it's tough to go with. Ray Chase comes in as the new Scott Summers voice, or Cyclops. I honestly thought it was the same voice actor. I thought so. Norm Spencer was the original voice actor. He does it so well. He definitely studied. You know, he has the same voice, the same inflections, the same mannerisms. Whatever he did, man, I wish actors would do that same thing. Give me just a second. I'm gonna go back to the original here. So Ray Chase does an amazing job. Jennifer Hale takes over as Jean Grey. At first I wasn't sure if this was the same person. So Jennifer Hale is one of the most accomplished voice actors around. So she doesn't quite sound like Catherine Disher, who voiced the original Jean. But of course, I mean, again, Jennifer Hale has been around forever. She's an amazing voice actress. Great at what she does. I have no problems with her. Like I said, I couldn't quite tell that it wasn't her, but at the same time, I couldn't tell that it was her either. It's like, I think it's her. Could be wrong. I don't know. So once I actually looked up the casting and all that, I was like, oh, okay, I guess it's not her. But of course, Jennifer Hale, like I said, she's been around forever. She's done so many voice acting roles. She knows her stuff. She can do this in her sleep. Catherine Disher was the original person, but here's the funny thing. Catherine is in the new show, but she's Val Cooper, which I believe is the senator. I could be wrong on that. Again, but yeah, it's kind of interesting that she is in here as well, just not the same character. AJ Locasio, I hope I'm saying his name right, is the new Gambit. Again, he's okay. Considering how different the rest of the cast sounds, you'd be hard-pressed to know it wasn't Chris Potter. Chris Potter was the original actor, reprising the character, but you do know it's not quite the same. So it's one of those, again, you can tell it's not quite the same, but you're not sure if it's the same guy or not. Next, Allison Court has been replaced by Holly Chu as Jubilee. Again, Holly doesn't quite sound the same, but no complaints. She's very good in the role. Next one is Isaac Robinson Smith. He takes over Bishop for Phil Aiken. Now, this was the first actor where I absolutely knew not the same guy. I mean, if you've ever watched the original, Philip Aiken has a command in his voice. He's got that deep voice when he wants to. Isaac Robinson Smith does not have that. Again, not to disparage him or anything. We're only through 2 episodes. It's hard to tell. But he just doesn't have that same command, same gravitas, the same deepness in his voice that the original had. So it doesn't quite feel as powerful. Morph is now J.P. Karliak instead of Ron Rubin. Considering the massive change to Morph's character, you'd hardly know this one was, the difference between the two unless you were a hardcore Morph fan. Which in the original, Morph was created to die. So the fact that they brought him back was more of, hey, we can tell more stories with him. It's kind of a Boba Fett effect type of thing. People ended up liking him because of the friendship he had with Logan, with Wolverine. Last and certainly not least, Matthew Waterston takes on the role of Magneto instead of David Hemblin. This was another one where I was pretty sure it was a new actor, but just couldn't quite verify if it was the same guy or not. As I watched the episodes, again, it's been 30 years since these people have really done the voices, so it's tough to tell. Again, nothing wrong with it. You can just kind of tell it's not the same. So the voice actors, all good. So far, nothing to really complain about. They're just not quite the same. Once again, it's in the style of the original, but it does not feel like the original. It doesn't, it feels like they created a continuation in the style of something, but it isn't the same people doing it. That's what it feels like. The storylines. So we're barely entering the story. So this is kind of tough. Again, we're only 2 episodes in. I'm going to keep saying that. The one thing I will say is it doesn't feel like there is any real danger so far. So that was kind of one of the best parts about the original series and killing Morph off so early. So even though he does come back later, at the time when you watched it for the first time, you don't know that. Every fight feels like something could happen and someone could be gone. You felt the struggle of the characters. Through 2 episodes and 4 fights, it's barely felt like anything bad was ever going to happen to the heroes. They just never really felt like there was any consequences, like there's any ever danger for anybody. They handled it pretty easily. And again, I'll go into that a little bit later. So next one is character design. So I'm not a fan that they made the characters look younger, except Wolverine. He actually looks older somehow. I think it's the bushy sideburns, but Rogue is obviously the worst one, and I kind of showed the difference between her there. So I'll kind of do that one again here. So we got, 92 Rogue versus 97 Rogue. They just don't quite look the same. Next we have, Magneto. So I didn't understand originally that Magneto was, oops, sorry. Which one are you? Oh, so for some reason now it won't show it. All right, let me get rid of these ones. And now will you show it? There you go. So originally I thought this was just some new thing they were doing, but apparently this is a story back in the Uncanny X-Men days where Magneto went to trial so that he could become a good guy. So this was a thing that he did way back then. So it is a deep cut pull that they're doing with this, with the giant M on the front. Sure, whatever. Not my style, but however, what I will say is he looks like, I'm just going to pull this up instead. As I'm going to do this. No, are you not going to let me do this? Why wouldn't you let me do this? Okay, fine, I'll do it. Phoenix Wright, Von Karma. It looks like Manfred Von Karma. That's kind of how they made. That's how they made him look. I'm just sitting there like, all right, so he's from Phoenix Wright, and they gave him a giant M on his shoulder. So now I just keep waiting to hear the, oh, jeez, sorry, you can't see that. There he is. There's Von Karma. So now it just looks like, I'm waiting for the courtroom scene for him to say objection, or the video game objection. I don't get it. Whatever. As for the rest of the character design, Storm has her Mohawk version, which, if this is supposed to be, take place like 1 day or 1 month or something like that, right after Xavier died, I don't get why she suddenly has the Mohawk, nor why Jean is suddenly 9 months pregnant. They're odd character design choices. Jubilee is a bit more Asian than the original, but, that doesn't take away from anything. Morph being non-binary and have a blank face head is another odd choice, but ultimately so little has happened so far that it really doesn't make much of a difference. So they go to the show through the first 2 episodes, and spoiler warning, I keep doing this. I don't know why I keep doing this. Bam. Nope. Bam. There we go. So again, it's solidly written, solidly acted, and there's not much to take apart, and anything I do is fairly nitpicky. The downside is there's very little that's memorable either. The Sentinel scene was too quick, and the fact that they were essentially zombie Sentinels was weird. And Eric's UN courtroom scene was also not memorable. He's there for 5 seconds. The building gets attacked. Some guy has a new weapon, which negates mutant powers. Storm gets hit, and they take the guy out, and Storm leaves at the end of the second episode. So those were like the only positive memorable scenes. But again, barely memorable. After that, there was kind of the nitpicky things. There was a dance club scene, which to me was way out of place. I don't understand what the whole thing is with current generation and dancing in cartoons. To me, it felt like a ripoff of Batman Beyond scene that had a similar dance club scene, and this was a way to force Roberto and Jubilee together for a few seconds. Apparently, Rogue and Magneto are a thing, and so that's what this article is about. I don't remember this in the original. Long, complicated history in the comic books that wasn't touched in the X-Men the animated series. Okay, perfect. So it's not that I'm missing anything, and I'm not a comic book guy. Outside of Eric July's Rippaverse, like I've never gotten into the comics at all. Seems that this history is going to be brought to the forefront in X-Men 97. I don't understand this. I really don't. I don't get why, they're like, oh, well, we're taking off of the, the 96 show, the 92 to 96 show, and this is going to pick up right after that. And then they throw in something that didn't happen in that show at all. So I think this could actually end up hurting the show. But we'll see. We'll see what they do with it, because they do make it a thing. Like they started off, but again, other than that, nothing really memorable. So where do I rate this? So voice acting 8.5, and honestly, if Rogue's voice character matched up, I'd give this an easy 9 or more. Easy 9 to 9.25. Character design 7.5. The choices with Rogue and Magneto's designs really bring this down. I think if they had Magneto and his classic, looking more of his classic self, and if Rogue's design fit more her age, I'd be happier with that. And I'd put those at like 8, 8.5, maybe 9. Storyline is where this really hurts. It's a 6. And that's because there's so little that's really positive and memorable that I can't go higher. And I know I said it's solidly written, but there's also nothing that really makes you go, man, I have to rewatch this. There's a couple of oddly placed jokes that, while they make you laugh, they don't really fit the show, mostly with Logan and Jean. So where would I put this as a full, I'd say 7. Like, that's how much the storyline hurts everything else. I don't have Disney Plus. I got rid of that years ago, and I would never pay Disney for this show. I watched it on the high seas. If this were on terrestrial television, I wouldn't mind turning it on, but I also wouldn't care if I ever watched the episodes again. It has a lot of room to go either way, so we'll see how the future episodes present. Again, it's not bad, but it's also not, I'm not one of the people that's sitting there like, oh my God, it's so amazing. This puts me right back in the time. And I was perfect age, I was 12 when the original show started, and I watched that show religiously. I mean, every Saturday I was there watching that show, and I was mad as heck that show wasn't a weekday afternoon show like so many of the other ones. I thought it was that good. But you guys, let me know. What do you guys think? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Do you think I'm wrong? Let me know in the comments below. And I will try and do this. Try to do this one weekly until the season's done. I'm sure we'll get at least 2 seasons out of this, because it's kind of one of those things with animation. If you're going to pay for 1, you're going to pay for 2. But anyway, again, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Like, share, subscribe. I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.